Hey, we've made it to 2 episodes of this series. Yes! Okay, let's talk about 5 of the most interesting games that I've played this month. But let us know in the comments what you've been playing. What's been good, great, bad, but most importantly, interesting. I want to hear about it too. Let's go.
Why, I see you have exquisite tastes, but I'm afraid this item is not for sale. We do, however, have this fine implement guaranteed for up to 1,000 grades. No? No? Well, maybe we should just talk about Bargain Quest then.
So Bargain Quest reached backers' hands in the last month, and I got to play on a friend's copy of it? I think I'd have crushed it. You run a store in a fantasy town which appears to be plagued by an ever-increasing number of monsters. But this being a fantasy town, it's okay because heroes are never too far away, ready to come and save the town for glory. You, as a shop owner, are hoping to equip those heroes with your items, and make a tidy profit off the entire situation. So at the start of every round, you'll draft new items. Then you do a blind bid where you select one of your items to put in your window display. And the more impressive that item is, the more likely certain characters will be attracted into your store. But the item that you put there is one that you can't sell. It's in the window display. That's for display purposes only, sir. Then, once you've attracted one of these heroes to your store, you'll equip them by selling them whatever items they can afford and, that you want to give up. And then they'll head off into the dungeon to fight the monster. And if they do some damage, hey, you sold them some good weapons, you'll earn points for that. And if they survive, well, hey, clearly you sold them some good armor, so you'll earn points for that. And if they die, well, your reputation will take a little bit of a hit. It's a nice little gameplay loop. Not terribly deep, not particularly interesting. Decision-wise, there are plenty of decisions, but, it's kind of take it or leave it. What really sells Bargain Quest is the theme. It's great. It's wonderfully well done. There's a huge supply of hero cards, all with their own kind of tweaks. The way those rules interact and the items you're selling them and the kind of staff you can hire for your shop and the monsters you're fighting, all of the combination of these things generates little stories, which are just lovely. The one that's stuck with me from when I played was a cultist sorcerer character. When you use that character, you can sacrifice one of your staff in order to boost her stats in the fight. So I have this little trainee guy in my store. It's like, why don't you take care of this this customer, lad? It'll do you good, knowing full well I absolutely intend to kill him off when the fight comes. But then they get to the fight, draws a really perfect kind of combat card, attack card, and I didn't need it. So the trainee comes back thinking he's just had made a valuable contribution, when really he's had the luckiest break and he doesn't even know it. So that's really what is most impressive about Bargain Quest. Oh look, the lights are out. It must be a very funny intro about the Blackout, Hong Kong Blackout. Whatever. Blackout Hong Kong is not a game about its setting. It's not a game you play for its setting. It's a game you play for the mechanics. Because it's a heavy-ish Euro game by one of my favourite designers, Alexander Pfister, the designer of Great Western Trail. Blackout's had a bit of a rough time of it. For one thing, The component quality initially was terrible. This is the second edition, and it looks a lot better. The graphic design is improved, but they misprinted a bunch of stuff in the European edition so that you now need paste-ups or to order replacement parts, which will hopefully be here soon. This game deserved better, basically. It's also a game that speaking from personal experience, I struggled to get to grips with initially. And not because the game is necessarily complicated, although, it's a heavy-ish Euro, so there is a degree of complexity, and not because the game is poorly explained. The rulebook is pretty good. But because the structure and how the game is put together is surprising, is unusual, and that made it much harder to get to grips with. There are two things that are weird about it that I think throw you off for the first couple of plays. It was only later that I was able to put it all together. Firstly, the round structure is bizarre. It's broken up into 8 phases, which you all go through, and you kind of can do a lot of them simultaneously. Some bits you can't quite, but it's like you do step 1, plan out your turn, plan out your cards. Step 2, trigger those cards. Step 3, let's complete any objectives you're doing, buy some more objectives, do the search thing, then secure the district. And it's like, you can't ever get into a flow or rhythm with the game because you're constantly switching focus as you go through the round structure. Then it's on to the next round, you do it all again. And eventually those round beats become coherent, but it feels very strange compared to a lot of more modern designs. The turn structure feels long-winded and involved, even when none of the individual elements necessarily are. But when you're new to the game, each step is that much slower, and because there are so many steps, it really can drag the game out initially. Once you've got the hang of it, it's fine, but it takes that investment. Secondly, unlike a lot of Euro games, it's kind of lacking long-term overall goals. You're not here to solve the Blackout. You're here to fulfill as many objectives as possible and secure as many districts as possible. But you complete objectives really quickly. You're aiming to fulfill them as quickly as possible, so you'll at least fulfill one a turn, one a round, and you'll be hoping to do 2, maybe 3 if you're incredible, who knows. And so the kind of objectives aren't long-term goals in any way. Instead, they could have been fueling an engine, but there isn't really an engine to fuel. It's like, I get this new volunteer, and I can play that volunteer, and they're great, they're better than the stuff I had before, but then that has to wait. I can't reuse it until I'm allowed to pick those cards back up. Likewise, the action bonus objectives, there's a little bit of comboing available there, but it's very slight. Really, it's just, here's a bunch of bonuses. They work more or less independently. That feels strange. It feels unusual in comparison to a lot of Euro games that I've played where engine building is a big part of it, or where there are big things that you want to try and achieve. Like Great Western Trail, I want to get my train to the end of the track, or I want to get this really high value building out. And it takes you all game to get close to or to achieve that goal. Here you don't have that long-term thing, and so you're left at the end of the game thinking, saying, well, that was great, I did things, but there's nothing that thinks, I really want to do that specific thing next time. There isn't a specific thing to chase. It's just doing lots of things, and it feels weird. I think it it kind of hurts the game, but only because every game does it in other, does these other things normally. I can't decide whether trying something new isn't a good thing in itself, because after the first couple of games and feeling a bit weird about it, I found myself really enjoying my later plays. So it's definitely one that I am keeping and that I want to play more of, even if it's a bit of a tough sell to new players in this kind of market, particularly in a market where there's so many good games, which is a shame. There is a full review of Blackout on the blog now, so go check it out. There's a link in the description below. Men at Work is a brilliantly tongue-in-cheek dexterity game that's shown me that I should be playing dexterity games far more than I am.
Hey, you! We're all on!
Oh, quite right. All right. Safety first, people. Safety first. Men at Work is all about being manly, doing manly things like building a skyscraper, placing bricks delicately on a man's shoulders. But because we're being manly, rather than carefully building, the entire site rapidly turns into a complete nightmare. On your turn, you're literally going to flip a card, which will tell you whether you're placing a brand new wooden girder into the structure, or whether you're placing one of the manly men. And then on the opposite side of the cards, there'll be a bunch of modifiers. So you'll have to place a man with 2 beams, or with a brick and a beam, or you'll have to place the girder so that it is balanced on one other girder, which is always way harder than you think it should be. It's just fantastic. Like, the moment you have too much slope, and it's not much slope, just a little bit of an angle on the girder, trying to place a man on it, they'll just slide down. The bricks are surprisingly sticky. Like, not in a weird sticky way, just that you can't let go of them and have them stay exactly where they were when you were gripping them in the way that you think you should, which makes them so much harder to place than they should be. And that's brilliant, because obviously this is a dexterity game, so it's kind of all about those mistakes. And Men at Work really, really leverages that to its fullest. So you'll be eliminated if you cause any number of accidents, which is where any component falls off, hits the floor. But the brilliant thing is that after the guy's collapsed onto the floor, the next player has to make the site safe before they can do anything. So your mistake punishes the next player as well. And they have to go in with this cardboard hook and carefully drag all the pieces that have fallen to the ground clear of the entire area before they can then take their normal turn. And it's just so funny. It's just like, there's been an accident. It's like everyone just, whoa, stop. Everyone, make the site safe. Right, passes the cardboard hook to the next player. But then halfway through the game, the foreman turns up. And the foreman is a lady. And so now you're all going to be extra manly and show her how you're the manliest man on the Men at Work board by placing whatever you have to place at the highest point of the tower. What? We don't want the car park it's going up the top. And so that just pushes you into doing the most dangerous things that you possibly can, which means there's probably going to be more accidents, which means there's more fun, which is so well designed. Like, it is brilliant. And that if you succeed, if you pull off the risk that you've taken, then you get the Employee of the Month award for that turn. Which, if you collect enough of those, you'll instantly win the game. Yeah, Men at Work, really excellent game. Friend brought it to a convention we were at. We played it 3 times, that convention. It was so good. It just kept coming out. Gotta build them towers higher, baby. Build them towers. Now, I love a good deduction game, so I was hoping that Treasure Island would be a new favourite of mine. And on the surface, it looks great. You're all pirates hoping to grab the treasure from Treasure Island. One of you is Long John Silver, and he knows where the treasure is. So you've locked him up, because you don't want him to get it, because he's not going to share it with you. So this is a fully competitive game, and the player who is Long John Silver must give you clues to where the treasure is. He'll give a kind of public clue, which might be something like, it's within 8 miles of this pirate, which it turns out is most of the island. And you'll all dutifully make notes on these things and slowly start eliminating the various parts of the board. And eventually, though, after a certain number of rounds, Long John escapes, and then it's a race because he's going to just move straight for the treasure. Or, well, I mean, you can do some bluffing, but anyway, broadly, he just needs to reach the treasure and he'll win the game. You need to find it before that happens. As you search, you'll have a little ring template that you place over your pirate, and you'll draw around the inside of that, and you'll turn expectantly to Long John Silver and say, "Did I find the treasure?" And he'll go, "No." And then you'll go on, and you'll continue. Until someone does, luckily, stumble upon the treasure. However, the problem I had with this, it's not really deductive. So the information you have is always binary, yes, it could be here, no, it can't be there. Okay, I'll go check where it could be. There's no, okay, I know it's near X, but not near Y. Where on the board does that fit? See, Long John, because he's choosing the clues he gives you from some limited selection, it's not too difficult for Long John to make sure there's only one solution. That's never the case here, because he can put the treasure anywhere on the board. There's no unique place that all the clues, when combined together, give you that location. It's just the series of clues that get played will narrow down the area you need to search, and depending on how cunning Long John is, that area will be bigger or smaller. And if he's played well, then it's big. And really, the only way you have to win is to get lucky and happen upon the right spot and draw the circle in the right place. It doesn't feel like you're deducing anything, especially. You're just improving the probability that you'll hit that spot. But there is always going to be an element of luck to it. You can never say, I worked it out, aha, it's there, because that's just not possible. However, that may sound like that Treasure Island's a bad game, or that I don't like it. That's actually not the case. So despite that, Treasure Island leans wonderfully into its theme. And if everyone's there putting on silly pirate accents, and Long John's, cackling away when he gives you a second-rate clue.
Yar, I got the measure of ye here, lads.
Role-playing it a bit, then it's really just fun, tremendous fun, despite the fact that you can't technically figure it out. That doesn't really matter if you're looking at it in a kind of as part of a bigger picture. Add on to that, you've got the real toy factor of this game. You've got the rings, and you're drawing on stuff, and you've got the big compass, which I could have gotten out. And you've got the big compass, which you can put on the map and draw a circle around things, and it shouldn't matter. If you're being some objective, if we're going to be some kind of objective reviewer, should it really matter that, these toy elements, isn't that just distraction? Yes, but it's okay to be distracted. It's okay to be swept up in the theatre of it and enjoy the experience that gives you. It's all part of it. So the important thing is to go into the game knowing that it's not so much a deduction game as it is an experience and a story. And then you'll be okay. It is more fun as Long John, though. So the last game I want to talk to you about is Condottiere. Pronounce Condottiere. Condottiere. So Condottiere is a really quite old design now. It's one of a classic card game that has been kind of in and out of print for a long time, and it's just recently, I believe, come back into print. So it's a game of warring, posturing mercenary princes in Renaissance Italy. And it's really good. It is really, really good. I played it this month at 2-player, which is odd. It's basically an auction game, but it doesn't feel like an auction game. You have a hand of cards. That is your kind of army, as it were, available troops and tricks. And you will be fighting over the various provinces of Italy, aiming to get 4 together, or a certain number in total. And so each round there will be a location of battle. And then you, going around the table, choose one card to play and add it out to your bid, but it's to your army. So most of your troops will be, see, it's already, the theme, it's already in there. Most of the cards will be troops, with some strength value from 1 to 10. You play that out, and then everyone else keeps bidding, or they pass and say, right, I'm out this round. But they've still lost any cards that they've played. Which means there's this really interesting hand management element to it, because you don't draw new cards until everyone is out of cards. So if you go big on the first battle, then you're stuck until possibly multiple other battles have resolved. And you're trying to judge when people are going to drop out. You can just play a 1. And that just keeps you in the battle just to see what happens, even if it's not going to contribute very much. Alternatively, you can make a massive statement with your biggest card, but that exposes you. Unless you can take it back, because there are a whole slew of special power cards which do different things, which just does make the game a little bit harder to learn, but they are so worth it. For example, you can have scarecrows, which means you've basically dressed up scarecrows as soldiers to trick the enemy into thinking you have these forces on the battlefield, when in fact they're not there at all. So you play that and you pick up that high scoring card that you've committed, and you can do that to bait people out, or you can do that because they've played some weather card, or you realise you've lost the battle, so can you have never fought it at all, even though it is a auction game. It's the total number on the cards that you've played with whatever modifiers apply because of the other special ability cards you've played. But it feels like you're maneuvering and bluffing around battles, as well as almost politically. Like, you have bishop cards which let you block certain regions of the map off for the next round, and you have the courtesans which, if you've played the most of those, mean you get to choose where the next battle takes place. It's a delightful game. Okay, there we are. 5 games that I've played over August. I think if there's any lesson that I've learned this month, it's just how valuable a good, well-implemented theme can be for a game. I mean, Treasure Island, Bargain Quest, Condottiere, I've forgotten how to pronounce it again. All of those games are vastly improved by their theme. Men at Work as well, geez, it's so good. So again, let me know what games have stood out for you this month. I want to hear about it, and I will see you all again next month. Bye!